To understand Thomas Tuchel, we have to go back to 2009. Michael Jackson had just died. Barack Obama was the new president.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
And a 35-year-old inexperienced youth coach took over at Bundesliga's side, Mainz. A club where another exciting young coach, Jürgen Klopp, had started his own career.
Es gibt auch Schlimmeres irgendwie, als mit Jürgen Klopp verglichen zu werden.
We know each other for a long, long time. We have kind of a common history, if you want. He worked for Mainz, like I did.
Back then, we met the unknown Tuchel at Little Mainz. From an early stage, he had his eye on the biggest coaches in the game.
Pep Guardiola von Barcelona gibt kein einziges Einzelinterview, keines. Das fand ich interessant, weil letztendlich vom erfolgreichsten Club der Welt und von einem der größten Clubs der Welt die Hauptperson letztendlich sich dann auch erlaubt, keine Einzelinterviews zu geben.
Even as he made his first steps in the Bundesliga, he was learning from the very best. Tuchel's playing career had ended at 25 due to a knee injury, so he studied economics and worked at a bar before returning to football as a youth coach. Soon, he arrived at Mainz.
Dienstag, erstes Training, Samstag, erstes Punktspiel. Die Mannschaft ist bereits ausgeschieden beim Viertligisten im Pokal. Also es ist idealer Zeitpunkt, um als absoluter No-Name mal auf die Bühne zu treten.
The experiment was a resounding success. The unknown led Mainz to 9th place, at that time their best ever finish. His second season was even better, as Mainz qualified for the Europa League. Soon enough, Tuchel resembled a coach of a top team, rather than a club that's used to battling relegation.
Mir geht es viel mehr um meine Leidenschaft, um meine Sehnsucht. Das ist einfach das perfekte Spiel, die perfekte Trainingswoche.
Training has always been at the heart of Tuchel's success, and his methods were revolutionary. For example, to stop his players relying on long balls out wide, he cut off the corners of the pitch.
Wir trainieren in extrem verengten und veränderten Räumen, diamantfarbenes Spielfeld. Wir trainieren im Kreis, wir trainieren auf 18 Meter Spielfeldbreite mal 75 Meter Länge auf 2 Tore. Wir trainieren auf 30 Meter Länge, aber 70 Meter Breite auf 2 Tore. Wir haben bis heute kein einziges Training auf dem ganzen Trainingsfeld 11 gegen 11 gespielt.
Tuchel forced his players to find solutions in tight spaces. That meant when they took to a full pitch for games, they played with greater freedom. His approach? Practice makes perfect.
Das Ziel ist natürlich, in jedem Wochenende 3 Punkte zu holen, zu gewinnen. Aber der Fokus, damit sind wir immer gut gefahren. Die Konzentration sollte auf dem Weg bleiben.
Another part of Tuchel's strategy is to set up to counteract each opponent. Klopp favours gegenpressing. Pep has tiki-taka. But Tuchel can beat them both by anticipating their every move and finding new tactical innovations. That's why at Mainz he never played the same formation with the same players twice in a row.
Ich habe mich oft genug erschrocken um 15:05 Uhr bei Sky unten am Spielfeldrand. Herr Tuchel, Sie haben heute wieder 6 unterschiedliche Spieler auf dem Feld und Sie haben wieder eine neue Grundordnung. Und da habe ich gedacht, was? 6? Wer?
But this is also one of Tuchel's biggest problems. To him, players have always been a means to an end, pawns in his 4D chess game who he can move around at will. And that means sometimes the human touch is missing. Tuchel is a driven personality, a perfectionist. His expectation of consistent excellence creates friction with some players.
Es ist kein einziger Ball dabei für unser Spiel. Es ist nur dein eigenes Spiel. Hier noch ein Trick, da noch ein Trick und hier noch eine Idee. Und keine einzige klappt davon.
One former player said, "What he did to me was 100% bullying. He's a dictator." You'd never hear a player say that about Klopp, who has always worked hard to get the whole squad on board with his ideas. Tuchel has the edge on Klopp tactically, but not when it comes to the personal side of the job. Tuchel has never escaped the Klopp comparisons. In fact, he encouraged them. For example, in 2015 when he moved to Dortmund and, just like in Mainz, succeeded Klopp.
Es ist völlig selbstverständlich für mich, mit der größtmöglichen Anerkennung und Wertschätzung diese herausragende Trainerleistung von Jürgen in den vergangenen 7 Jahren anzuerkennen.
The cerebral, meticulous perfectionist Tuchel took over one of the most emotional clubs in the world. This was just before his first training session. He was happy to get his hands dirty and set things up himself, a job usually passed off to an assistant. Tuchel planned every session in exact detail, right down to the centimetre. And it worked. Tuchel won more points per game than any other Dortmund coach ever. And in each of his 2 years with the team, he led them to the cup final, winning it once. He also achieved the best points total of any second-placed team in Bundesliga history. Unfortunately for him, Pep and Bayern were even better. These were Tuchel's first battles with Guardiola. The two tactical masterminds met on the sidelines in the Bundesliga and often after games for dinner too. Another situation where Tuchel could learn from the very best.
Es ist bekannt, wie dass Pep Guardiola auch auf eine Art und Weise ein Vorbild ist. Und das war sehr, sehr interessant für mich, weil ich den Austausch mit solchen Persönlichkeiten natürlich liebe und auch suche und das ein Weg ist für mich, besser zu werden.
Tuchel also improved his players, the likes of Mats Hummels, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Henrik Mkhitaryan and Marco Reus were at their best in his reign. Tuchel moved Dortmund away from Klopp's heavy metal football to a flexible possession-based game, where the man with the ball always has multiple options. But players are people too, and football doesn't always make sense.
Continuing with our breaking news, this coming out of Germany. Police in Dortmund have confirmed that at least 3 explosions have occurred.
On the way to a Champions League quarter-final game, Dortmund's team bus was bombed. One player, Marc Bartra, was badly injured. The team was in shock, but after discussions between club bosses and UEFA, the game was only delayed by 1 day. Dortmund lost, and afterwards Tuchel leapt to the players' defence.
Nach diesem Sprengstoffanschlag war im Grunde nur die Entscheidung, könnt ihr eigentlich noch spielen? Also wir wurden im Grunde, hatten das Gefühl, dass wir behandelt werden, als wäre eine Bierdose an unserem Bus geflogen.
Was this Tuchel's human side on show, or was he putting on an act? There were rumours that Tuchel was happy for the game to go ahead when it did. He also allegedly criticised his players, saying, "I'm supposed to beat Bayern with these wimps?" His relationship with the club bosses broke down. Even before these events, it seemed like his my way or the highway approach didn't fit. Dortmund CEO Aki Watzke emphasised that leading the club was about not just results, but also fundamental values like trust, respect, communication skills, authenticity, and identifying with each other. All things that made Jürgen Klopp a perfect fit. But Thomas Tuchel, not so much. So Watzke decided to let one of the best coaches in the world go. But he wasn't out of work for long.
Merci pour votre présence aujourd'hui. Je suis très heureux d'être ici comme entraîneur de ce club exceptionnel.
At Paris Saint-Germain, a different challenge altogether awaited Tuchel. How do you turn a collection of world-class players into a team? But Tuchel showed he was the right man to lead the superstars.
Com era vencedor, né? O com ele queria estar cada vez, né, melhorando, mostrando a sua melhor versão.
Tuchel had a successful stint in Paris, but losing that final went down badly in Paris. And after the team started the following season poorly, Tuchel's relationship with the media became more and more strained.
Vous montrez-moi une équipe qui joue chaque match 4-5 buts, c'est pas possible. Mais pour moi, c'est clair que vous trouvez toujours un point. Ah, on cherche le négatif. Il n'y a pas de problème. On a gagné. Et je ne vais pas faire une excuse.
The club's owners wanted more, and a falling out with sporting director Leonardo led to Tuchel's dismissal. His old employers didn't seem surprised, with Dortmund's Watzke saying, "Thomas is a difficult person. You can see that in Paris too, but he's a fantastic coach." The numbers back that up. At all of his clubs, Tuchel has been a success. At PSG, he won 3 of every 4 games. In his first half season at Chelsea, he won 2 points per game in the toughest league in the world. And his old sparring partner knew what to expect.
I saw already some routine, some fundamentals, some process that I remember when I faced them in Borussia Dortmund.
Thomas Tuchel learned from the best until he became the best.
It will be tricky to place him, like it always was tricky, because he's a good one.
I don't want to rest. I want the next one. I want the next success, and I want the next title, and I want the next process on the same level of quality, of consistency, and I want to be a part of it, and I demand to be a part of it.